Kind of goals for the Tavern Talk today is I want to go over, obviously, the free to play, which is coming on Friday. And we're going to cover talking about some of the unknown things we have about the free to play and kind of mitigation plans for those. We'll be discussing our new roadmap, which people may or may not have found on the Discord. I just want to say it, out loud where it is and what you can find and expect from it. Um, and talk about our upcoming stuff. I know people have questions about what's coming in the Levea content and also what's coming after Levea. So we'll talk about both of those things as well, and then and then take some questions. There's been a lot of good questions in the Tavern Talk question threads, so we're going to get to some of those too. So to kick us off, we talked a little bit in May about the whole free-to-play thing, and now we're here. And just wanted to understand or get people to understand who weren't part of that Tavern Talk or haven't had a chance to listen to it about why we're doing this. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this since it was covered in the last one. But in general, we need to get a bunch more players in here, and the fastest way to do that is by removing the barrier to entry. For an early access game, as we've all participated in early access games. We're all gamers, and hiding it behind kind of a low visibility price point wasn't the best way to get players in here. So games like MMOs only succeed when they have a lot of interest and a lot of players, and that's like really what it comes down to. So the fastest road there is by letting everybody in. So we've spent a little bit of time that we didn't talk about the last time between May and now. Kind of dovetails into the next point about how to handle an influx of players. So we've been changing things subtly on the infrastructure side of the back end. Jason, our network dev, has done an incredible job pulling through all that data, consolidating resources, and coming with a plan of attack on how do we move from a limited visibility game with an extremely passionate but as far as gaming terms go, a small user base, and be able to handle the scale of potentials that could happen when moving free to play. I don't think we're going to pull off the giant, we've seen some VR games that explode from 20 active users to thousands in daily active users. We're going to get there, but I don't know if it's going to happen because like on day one. But we're shoring up for as much of the possibilities we can of having as many concurrent players as we can. Our realms are designed to handle up to 500 concurrent players. We've never gotten anywhere near that. So we're going to put that thing to the test on Friday and see where it falls over. That's kind of like in the unknowns thing. We built a bot system and have been using internal testing to see what the scale of boundaries is on that. I don't think we're going to hit it. If we do, it'd be an awesome problem for the entire community to have because, imagine 10 times as many active players. But if we want to, what we've done is make a plan for both utilizing services that exist on our hosts for dynamic scaling of resources, which takes a lot to figure out. We're still working on that. And if that doesn't get figured out, our backup plan is just going to be creating multiple realms and templates to spin those up quickly to meet demand. So that's kind of our biggest unknown about what's going to happen with the free to play as far as user base goes, and kind of how we're addressing that.
Yeah, let me put that in a little bit more simple. How's it going to look for the player terms? If we get to a point where the servers are full and you're not allowed to log in because the server's full, we'll keep a close eye on it and spin up extra servers, and they will be pointed at the same everything. So you'll be able to hop your characters between servers so that they're not like character locked to the servers as they were previously.
Yeah, that's a good point to call out. That was a discussion today. It's our ultimate goal as we grow as a product that we don't want to player lock the servers. So since servers will be up and down based on utilization of realms, we need to make it so our current plan is to make it so players can just move to any available server and come and go as they're up and down, and add ways to go meet your friends or find out what server they're currently playing on. So have a consolidated number of players, but it's not per realm, basically.
And our end goal is an infrastructure, I think, a lot of MMO gamers have heard the term server shards, as a kind of a loose way to that servers kind of dynamically spin up and spin down as player count goes up and down, and that's an end goal that we've continued to work towards. We're not there yet. We've been working quite a lot with our server host and things like that as we develop on it further. But for now, what you're going to see is those extra servers come into play as they need, and we will add or remove them as demand needs.
It's a problem I hope we have. I would very much like to see more than one server have to pop up on the list. That would be awesome for everybody.
Yeah, we had some pretty high player counts when Tides of Corruption first launched.
Oh yeah, in the week following the launch of Tides of Corruption in March was pretty high. But again, we still didn't scratch the surface of what the server is theoretically capable of.
Yeah. So, yeah. And we learned a lot of things. I think one of the things we talked about today, having a discussion with our community about, was, when Tides of Corruption first came out, there was that the wisps were broken. So if you had too many players on your screen, we've got a system under the hood that will automatically kind of just turn them into floating wisps. So you're like, there's a player there, I can talk to them. They're not rendering, they're not updating fully because of, like the Quest 2 can't render too many players all at once. And we're dynamically scaling that and adjusting as we learn more and work on more and optimize more. But that's the way the system works. And it was very broken when we launched Tides of Corruption. And so everybody was a wisp for like a solid 10 minutes right after logging in, because we had so many players all coming in all at the same time, and the whole system was kind of bogged down, and it got to a point where you had to just kind of wait for them to pop in almost. And we've changed a lot of things under the hood for that, as well as the bugs that we had with Tides of Corruption where the players weren't saving and all of those things, was because we hadn't had optimizations to handle as many players actually updating and saving their information and going on adventures all at the same time. And we learned a lot from it, and we actually highly optimized the crap out of that while we were at GDC. So it's fun lessons, and we know what to look at, we know what to monitor. Like Tyler said, it's probably not going to go off without a hitch, but we know what to look at and how to handle it. So we're really excited for you guys to go break everything.
Yeah, we're prepared for the things that we've prepared for, and there's always going to be those unknowns, and that's software development. That's especially indie software development. So again, early access is early access, but we're doing the best we can to mitigate the problems that we could foresee. Okay, so continuing on with kind of the free-to-play thing, I know people have asked questions, and I did make that post earlier in the Discord in the news. I'm just going to restate it here so anybody who's watching in the future, people who own a key to the game, whether they backed previously to get it or bought it on the store, when we go free-to-play, we'll be getting the most we've ever sold this game for is $14.99. Some people paid $14.99. Some people paid $9.99. Some people paid $11. We've had weird sales throughout the time since the original launch in 2023. But we're just saying, okay, everybody's going to get their $15 worth of gems and to spend as they want on cosmetics. And then also we're giving people a title, those that have signed in during this time and actively played. There's going to be we have the of the first age for the title that's an account bound title, and we're never going to offer that title again, just to kind of say thank you to the people that logged in the first phase of Ilysia before we went free to play. That you can expect to have happen around the same time that will get added. We're bringing the servers down when we go free to play for a few hours. That's when that process will start, because that's how databases work. There may be some hiccups. They're not, but we're tracking everything. And so everybody who's got those keys, we can make sure they're taken care of for the title and the gems. That's just our way of saying thank you. What, Devin?
I wanted to call out, this is another one of those, we expect it to go well and for things to work. We've put a lot of work in the automation of the process, but if for some reason you log in and you did not get your reward for having played the game already, or for having redeemed a key from Kickstarter, please submit a support ticket. We can go manually handle those case by case.
Let us know.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, give it the day. We'll obviously hope to have that all sorted out as the data push happens through Friday. So yes, thank you, Zen. For people that have multiple keys, we have several people that have multiple keys from backing. You get the gifted gem pack for each one of those keys that you own, and whether or not you want to keep those combined gem values for yourself, or you want to gift the individual gem packs that if you own more than one to other friends, that's entirely up to you through Mage Portal.
There's also the case of if you're not a Kickstarter backer and you bought the game both on Steam and on Meta, you're going to get both of those values back. So you'll have $30 worth of gems, not 15. And again, exactly. If we have a situation where you've like merged your account, or maybe you haven't merged your account, and for some reason something's not happening right with our automated systems on how you're getting those rewards, please report them. We'll come manually resolve it for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we're going to catch the 80% of the cases we've got covered in our automation, and for the other 20%, if there is a 20% that has problems, that's what the Stickman tickets are for, and we'll be watching those just to make sure that we take care of everybody. So it is our intent to make good on this because it's what we want for ourselves.
Yeah, so. I do want to point out a special error case that I know that there are some folks that might have done this. If you were a Kickstarter backer and you backed and got like 5 or 6 or 10 keys or whatever, and you went and redeemed all of them, and you have the physical keys, but you haven't actually put those keys into Meta or Steam to actually reserve the copy of the game, that might be where it hangs and you might not get the reward properly for it. So if you have that situation and that stuff is in limbo, it's not going to automatically pick up and give you the reward after you redeem that key if it's already been claimed on Mage Portal as an actual physical key with the actual code. So that's kind of the big one that's harder to catch for us, is if you've redeemed the code but not used the code.
Yep. Good call out. Okay, so that's pretty much what we're going to cover in the free-to-play bits. We're very excited for Friday. This is a big milestone for us, and hopefully bring in an entire new player base of people to kind of check us out and enjoy our product and help us grow. That's really what it's all about. We're very excited for it. It's been a long time coming. Along with this, we also have listened about the outdated roadmap on Trello for those people that remember that. And if you look, there is a new channel in Discord for the public roadmap that links to our new roadmap. And what you can expect from that is you're not going to see like all the day-to-day bug fixes are not going to be in there unless there's like a catastrophic bug. If there's an all hands on deck catastrophic bug that's affecting everybody, you might see that bug pop up into that list of something where like suddenly moves up to that active development bucket to let you know that we are working on it. But more, you'll see that this is features. So new content, new features, new things like that, and kind of what stage those big overall tasks and ads are in development. Starting from, yes, it's something we want to do on that bottom list, which is pre-design. It's something we want to do. Active design is, it's either in the art department being actively concepted, or it's in the design department with design spec being written for it. And then obviously stuff then moves up to active development, which you can see that's what a developer currently is working on right now. We're going to keep that up to date a lot more since it's kind of tied into our daily workflow now instead of being a separate product on Trello. And so I think that we're going to have an easier time maintaining that list. Thank you, Mello, for posting that in there. So yeah, if you have questions about it, you guys can ask questions in general. Maybe we may or may not see them or save them for a tavern talk, that kind of a thing. But usually we also put a little description and at player request here for what the feature is instead of just an arbitrary name. Apparently it sucks on mobile, so I advise using the desktop and using word wrap. And you can hover over it on desktop as well and kind of see the blurb that's in the summary about what that feature or ask is, and as a general outlined thought. Also, that won't be super detailed for obvious reasons, but it will just be the general concept of it.
This is also not a full, like it's not the full comprehensive list of all things we're working on. There's no way that it can be. We talk about and touch so many different things on a daily, weekly basis that Sometimes something doesn't make it in. That doesn't mean it's not coming into the game. That doesn't mean we don't have a bug on our radar or things like that. This is kind of just a gross generalization of the things we're thinking about and working on as we can. It's directly because it's using Monday.
Features.
It's tied directly into our like under the hood task management and how we operate. So it makes it pretty easy for us to add new things to it, but it's not going to stay as up to date or as frequent as we work because we're just so small.
No. Well, and again, bugs and bug fixes, and that kind of stuff won't be on there. So it's just going to be kind of feature stuff unless it's a catastrophic bug. I know we have so many bugs, like, we knew that Resurrection was coming, but you guys didn't need to see that we had 18 bugs in Resurrection while we were in QA in development. Like, we don't need to expose those, so nobody would know what we were talking about.
Yeah.
And they're just it's just noise at that point. So I think a roadmap is kind of cleaner when it's overarching themes instead of all the minutia.
Prey raised his hand, so I'm going to click the chaos button and let him come say Gunblades real quick.
Okay.
Hi.
Hey.
So, Gunblades when?
There it is. I don't know. We might put that on the list. I'm not sure what bucket it's going to stay in, though. It could be that last one that never moves.
Ah, that would suck.
I don't know how to kick you off this stage, so could you please exit on your own? Much appreciated.
All right. Have fun. Have fun.
Thank you, Prey. Appreciate the reminder.
I guess I got to be careful now letting people on stage because I genuinely don't know how to boot somebody off the stage.
Oh, we'll figure that out.
Yeah, I can just ban him.
There is technically a Gunblade in the game, but it might be going away with the Wenching Whale unless we.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we do. We need to solve that. We need to put one on a table.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. All right. So next item on the list is we're going to talk a little bit about another question we get all the time is, oh my God, we're going free to play. You're giving out the keys for the gem packs for the keys, but how does it affect the rest of our rewards for backers? It doesn't. I just want to say that extremely clearly. For Kickstarter and for Patreon and those things, those awards are still predicated on the base features being implemented. Like, I'll use an example of housing. We won't be able to deliver on housing backer rewards until we write the housing system, and we haven't gotten there yet. So that's kind of what that means in general for the other backer rewards. Like the cosmetic pets, we have to write the cosmetic pet system first. The housing, we have to write the housing system first, et cetera, et cetera. So this does not have anything to do with Kickstarter backer awards or Patreon or anything except for those keys. I just wanted to be extremely clear about that. I've got that question 3 or 4 times now, and I totally understand it, and I can see why people would have that question. But yeah, I hope that clears that up. We're not touching those other backer awards with this. This is a separate thing. Okay.
Easy peasy.
As far as what to expect, I'm going to move into I think this question was actually asked in the Tavern Talk thread, so I'll skip that one later. But what's coming next? And so Levea, as you see, ends at what we call Zone 7, which is a Veiled Strand. For those of you that have played on PTR, for those of you who haven't, it ends at Zone 4, which is the Quarry and the first dungeon. So everything that's on PTR right now, that's zones 5, 6, and 7. So I think that is Stillwater Basin, Silver Shore, and the Veiled Strand. Comes in with PTR when we push for free to play on Friday. So everything will get updated on live. That includes the new combat mechanics. That includes the multi-hit boxes, those new zones, Malachar the Soulbinder mini boss, all that content, all the side quests, all the main quests, and the level cap raising to 15. All that stuff that's on PTR will move to live on Friday as well. We made the builds for that today.
The new cosmetic based on Malachar's outfit as well. That's officially
yes,
coming
there
in.
Will be a new cosmetic for those of you that haven't met Malachar, had the pleasure of wrecking him yet, or being wrecked by him, because he's kind of a jerk. But I'm excited for the people to play that haven't had a chance to check it out. Zones Zones 5, 6, and 7 wrap up kind of the corruption storyline as far as the cult goes for Levea. And as far as what's coming next, what's in development right now, since that is done, we have some polished stuff that we're going to put into Zone 7 later, but we've moved on to Zone 8. And I think that everybody has noticed that there's a giant skeleton in the middle of the island. That is a dead Leviathan, and Zone 8 is Leviathan's Rest and continues the storyline to wrap up Levea as a whole. The artifact, the corruption, everything as a whole, and take the players through the complete arc of the story from the destruction of Ainur to kind of the end conflict. That content will deliver levels 15 through 20, which takes place in both Zone 8 and a large outdoor dungeon instance that has a quest hub in it as well. The next round of content includes the large dungeon, features multiple bosses, and then a quest hub area, and then also the final confrontation with the final boss in a separate dungeon chamber. We are moving dungeon boss fights for like big lore fights to be small instances with not a lot of lead up, so people can get in, confront the boss. That's kind of their home, their lair, their habitat, and we can control the battlefield a little bit better. As those of you who've been around for a while know, when we have these big elaborate giant rooms with rocks everywhere and things you can jump on, VR gets cheesy, and it's not as easy to control what people are doing as in a flat screen game. And so we've taken a different approach with the final boss as having a chamber that we can kind of control the arena in, if you will. Arena is a great word for it. So we'll have one large outdoor instance with 5 bosses in it, and then a separate final confrontation when you're ready to take on the last boss. And then along with the last 5 levels of content spread between that. And that will raise the level cap of Levea to 20. And that is the intended end level cap for Levea. Along with the release of the next round of content, we'll also introduce the daily quests that allow players to gather the tokens, which is the alternate in-game currency, which you can use to redeem for cosmetics, as well as, so if you play long enough and you get the currency in-game, you can also buy the same cosmetics with your time that you can with real money. No pay to win, it's all cosmetic. But this is the introduction of the earned in-game currency, which you can redeem for gems. And that will be available through some NPCs that you will meet in Zone 8 in Leviathan's Rest. And then Devin, do you got a couple things ready?
I do. Let's show off the fancy stuff.
All right, and then so the next question after that. So that's what you can expect out of wrapping up Levea. And we also will talk a tiny bit today about what you can expect after Levea, which is currently in the concept design phase, and that is the next region, which is the Valley of Karnak. That is going to take players from level 20 to 30. We've got a couple teaser images, and I'll let Devin talk about that art process and kind of where we are in it. We started with narrative, though, so now we've moved on to art.
Yeah, I need to tell Discord to let me screen share.
Mm-hmm.
I want this one. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to start down here, and I want to preface with we're very much still in the concept phase. And I wanted to start with a bottom image that kind of just shows off a lot of the various looks that we're trying to go. So the Valley of Karnak is going to be a big desert. This will be where we introduce mounts and kind of carry the story out of Levea. We're doing a lot of concepts of trying to figure out what we want the visual style to be, of the architecture, of the foliage and the fauna. And we're kind of fleshing out what's the town going to look like, what's the rocks and mountains and hills going to look like. And we kind of, this first image just kind of like an overall, here's all the possible different things that could exist in it and make sure that they all fit and contrast nicely. I'm just going to pan through this a little bit to tease a little bit of things because there's a lot in here. I love our mobs tab, but they're not final yet. ideas of kind of reusing like some of our elementals and allowing them to be, I don't know, bone elementals, because we're kind of exploring the undead in some of the lore and the story of the region. A lot of concepts, a lot of sketches, a lot of concepts. We're thinking about architecture, we're thinking about rocks, and yeah, I'm just going to keep repeating myself over and over again as we scroll through it.
No,
All.
I
It's
mean,
really
this is how
exciting
it
stuff, but
starts
it's a lot
though.
of the same stuff.
The design, our design approach to regions, especially here coming out, is we start with what do we want the overall story to be? How does it carry on the general theme of what we're doing as players in the world of Ilysia. And then once that's done, then we can start with the assets, concepts from the art team that match that storyline, and then we move to like a rough layout of a map, and that's before world design actually takes place in the engine. Actually placing rocks and doing that kind of stuff. It's all got to go through this process first.
Yeah. Don't quite have any
this
armor concepts on here yet, but those are being worked on next too. What are our outfits going to look like in the desert? Those are really exciting
right.
too. If you have any of the Zulgard cosmetics, you kind of we're carrying some of the theming from the Leviathan that's already in Levea, and some of the creatures that are there, as well as some of the armors that exist through that kind of into this next region.
Yep.
Cool. Well, I think that's all I got to show.
Okay. In addition to that, once we kind of get fleshed out, we get a lot of questions about what are we going to do for future stuff with PTR, and it's kind of the same idea. PTR will have, when we have the new stuff for Zone 8 and up in the boss fights for the rest of Lovlea, we are going to put those on PTR, and then kind of the same thing as when the new region comes up. When we move into the Valley of Karnak, we're going to just piecemeal that with things we need tested. So we'll continue to go on with the PTR. I'm reading this. Hold on. Ace said something. Right now, the storyline is kind of region based and linear in that aspect. We are working on a concept that we haven't been talked a lot about yet. We're going to talk about this more later, but our intent is not to have regions or reasons never to come back to any of the regions. We want to make it so people. One thing I will say is, in the future, as we develop more regions, what you're going to have is a hub city. There's, think about it like, for those people that played World of Warcraft, it's kind of like our Dalaran. Ilysia will have a hub city that has portals in it to the other regions of the game. Players who will specifically come to this region to interact, use the shops. That's where you'll find most of our mini game stuff. All these things that we've talked about a lot in the past will be in the central hub region. We're going to use the Wenching Whale system for that, as we always intended, even back from the Tavern Talks as well. It's the reason these Tavern Talks have been called Tavern Talks since, 2019, 2020, is because that's kind of our social hub. And so one of the things you may have seen on the list for upcoming content is that we're replacing the Wenching Whale. That is because the Wenching Whales have kind of a smaller version of itself, which is in region. But in the basement of these, and you won't have that yet, is going to be a portal room that takes you to the main hub cities that, kind of like the main Wenching Whale. And then it'll have other shops and everything in it and around it. But part of that is a lore-friendly version of an activity hub with revisiting purposes to previous content. So I don't want to get too much into that because that's something that's very much in the early design phase. But the intent is, as we talked about 5 years ago, we kind of want to have like a hubbed reason for players to get together, if that makes sense. So it is linear zones that will have level intent. We're not gonna level the zones that, basically whatever zone you go to, everything in there matches your level. The zones have a specific order that they go in for storyline, but again, reasons to come back.
Yeah.
That have to do with you being a higher level.
For your second question, Ace, you asked about Endgame and the timeline for Endgame. Because we're an ever evolving live service game, I think Endgame is just going to keep moving. It's going to keep changing. Right now, Endgame is the Troger. And I think, I'll be honest, I think folks are getting a little tired of that being Endgame, because that's one thing that you can do once you hit max level. That's goofy. We're moving towards the end game of Levea as a whole being the rest of the dungeons that we add to the region, as well as when we implement the newer system for the repeatable quests that will give you reasons to go to other parts of the region and interact with some stuff that might not always be part of a quest or a side quest otherwise, so that you can keep engaging with the region and with other players while we continue to work on the next region and further content. And then,
but in speaking about kind of when we're out of EA, when we talk about raids, that is something we're doing. We've talked about that type of Titan content. That our EA and our vision right now is the region past the Valley of Karnak, which takes you to 40. That's kind of what we have internally as a point at which we'd like to be out of EA, is when the game is levels, the 4 regions to get you to, or sorry, 3 regions to get you to level 40. That's kind of what we're working on internally. But there's some base mechanics like housing and raiding and world bosses that we need to iron out before we get there. But we want that to happen, closer to like the first raids you would see in that like level 40 tier content.
And then the last bit for mechanically advanced combat, we kind of that's in PTR right now, a little bit. And don't get me wrong, it's going to keep going. We're going to keep changing and updating and modifying how the combat works, because honestly, everything in our game right now is a means to an ends for combat. Our biggest thing that anybody who's played PTR sees is the addition of the varying hitboxes on enemies. This lets us.
Yeah, Chris, people might not understand that, Devin. Like how to explain this. If this is my mob, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right now on live, it has a single object inside of it that is invisible, that if a sword hits it anywhere, it's going to apply that damage. Or you shoot it with one of the arrows, and the arrow just kind of, goes through it, and then that it doesn't matter if you hit it in the hand or the arm or the head or anything. You just have to hit this central collider that's on the monster,
which is very reminiscent of tab targeting in a flat screen game.
Exactly. What PTR has, and is what's coming to live on Friday, since we're done with the testing of it, was the base changed for all the mobs in the game, mob being an enemy, whether or not it's humanoid or a crab or whatever, that it has a separate collider for all of its limbs, it has a separate collider for its head, it has a separate collider for its legs, etc. So this allowed us to put in the system that, a blow to the head does more damage than hitting an enemy on the arm. It also allowed us to finally use armor colliders on mobs. So like a shield on a mob is its own collider that is separate from the ones on its body. And if you hit a mob with a shield, you're not going to do any damage because they blocked it. So
same with like
a lot of people have been missing that interaction that we had in our previous client authoritative version of alpha back in 2020. We've come back to redo that now to work with our current systems. So mobs in PTR have multiple hitboxes. This is why you see things like arrows are back to sticking in mobs on PTR, so you can see where you hit them. You can turn a monster into a pincushion. Your friends can see that you turned it into a pincushion. We've added effects to the arrows, like the fire arrow. When it sticks in, it's still burning, so you can leave a burning arrow into an enemy now. This is stuff that's been a long time coming that serves as the base implementation for us to do what we've wanted to do with mobs and bosses, which you've heard us talk about weak points before. Now we can make certain hitboxes or certain areas on mobs weaker during certain phases of a fight for a boss.
The Troger has weak
have
points.
The foundation to do that stuff. So that explains what we mean by multiple hitboxes and why that's such a foundational change. The combat in Ilysia has felt super bland since beta, and it's because everything had this one hitbox inside of it that gave you no feedback. This is the change that allows us to move past that finally.
I think another big one is the spirit walking being added now, so that priests can res people. So if you die in the Trogger fight, your friend can revive you, so that one guy dying doesn't mean the end of the fight.
Dying in our game on live right now, especially for even on PTR before we added the spirit walking, those people that played PTR before spirit walking, when you die to that Igara in the back of the ruins cave, the one that kind of wrecks shop, and then you get teleported to the next graveyard, which was all the way over in the quarry, and now you're alive again, and you have to walk through all of those mobs. Like, no, like it was rage inducing. So having spirit walking, which is lets us do the idea where, do I want to revive right now? Do I want to wait for a resurrection from another player? Do I want to go to the nearest graveyard? Do I want to take res sickness at the nearest graveyard? All those are now on PTR. So dying finally lets you walk back to where your corpse was to retrieve it, instead of having to refight everything that killed you in the first place. So that was another major foundational change for us. I'm reading what is typing in the chat.
Yeah, same. Man, we read slow.
I just want to make sure I answer the questions correctly.
Yeah.
So difficulty modes beyond those standard dungeons. Oh, like heroic instances, for example. That's stuff we've talked about in the past, like harder versions of dungeons. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, and I think that's something very specifically that we kind of want to add with the repeatable quests once we add them in is a harder version of running the Trogger.
Yeah, with better rewards.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a goal. Kind of those cool base features that we saw in WoW. I mean, that was really the original vision of this game was, I want to play WoW but in VR. That's kind of what we all sat around the table and talked about. So a lot of those type of mechanics we'd love to get to.
Oh, Redtail asks about hardcore, and it's funny you say that, because we a good friend of ours, Alex from Impact VR, who's been in the server many times and works alongside Mello. When we were at AWE, he comes right up to us and is like, "We need a hardcore mode. We need a hardcore mode."
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be fun. One of the things I want to do before we do hardcore and stuff is one of the things on the short list for things to do is bringing back the PvP system for flagging, but adding a leaderboard to it. That's one of our things that we want to do, both a guild-based leaderboard and a personal and individual leaderboard, with the traditional flagging instance of PvP, where you can flag and unflag with a timer. We had this working in alpha. We took it out because it was super buggy on our new backend, and we're going to revisit the time that code. That's something that we've got on the shorter list of things we want to work for.
It's something that players like The Walking Dead and others have brought up, like, hey, even if it's kind of not finished and not polished, even if the game's not super balanced, like, just give us the PvP beta flag and let us screw around with it for fun. And I think we're all on board with that.
That's exactly what PTR is for.
Yeah.
That kind of a thing. Yeah, I loved our old PvP. It was kind of fun to just run crazily away. The only part that was annoying was constantly being killed by everybody else on my team at work.
Yeah, I think even in the early days of beta, it was still on, and we were able to kill each other for a very brief amount of time, and that was very broken, but very, very fun.
Exactly. Okay. Let me go. I'm gonna go click and look at some of the questions that we had in the people that submitted questions. 1 moment. I have to scroll down there.
I know that I think I might have answered. Zach's had a question about the hitboxes and whether or not they were going to be affected by armor spots and things, and we already hit that one.
Story, get less linear. We got answered that one. Player mouse in VC. What's that? Player mouse in VC. A while ago, player mouse were supposed to move. Yes, that is a bug. We do want to get back to that. It is
flappy mouths not flapping anymore.
Our flappy mouths are no longer flapping. I thought that added a good amount of flavor. So
it was great. It looked awesome. It really made the game feel a lot better. I'm sad that it broke.
What's for 15 through 17? That's going to be the 15 through 20. I discussed that at length for the rest of Levea. PvP. What else do we got? Harvesting. Will there be any more VR harvesting, like the Skinny Deer a wolf or a pig for the? Oh, that's a great question. When we do kind of the tailoring leatherworking profession, which is coming after blacksmithing, we've been talking internally about how to handle skinning, and also there's other considerations for performance. We have to have, like, how long could a corpse sit on the ground before we make it disappear? What if a player doesn't skin it? That we've started talking about this kind of stuff because we also think it would be pretty cool to have to go down and harvest the hide from an animal, and use a loom to make clothes based on harvesting different, either naturally occurring silks or getting spider silks or doing that kind of stuff. So those are things that we are talking about and doing that we're interested in. Overall, the crafting, as we've said before, the crafting needs to be VRified. We've got a work item for phase 2 of the cooking even. That's we internally call, like, prep cooking. So instead of just throwing the ingredients in a pan, you've got to prepare those ingredients, and that should take place with some VR tools and some mechanics that make that fun. Same thing with alchemy and blacksmithing. We've got the flat screen version of the blacksmithing in the game, for example, at player request, just to allow people to craft gear. But we are deep into the design of the way blacksmithing is actually supposed to work in our game, which is preparing and smelting the ore, hitting it on an anvil, and creating the patterns to make the items. It's going to be VRified. You've seen kind of that. It's going to be variations of that, of like the cooking timer, but doing things with skill-based. Some of these things we've talked about, you're going to have multiple things you have to hit. Maybe the directions of things are moving at different, you've got to hit them in different spots. There's going to be more complexity, so there's a skill element to it as well. And then gaining higher levels in blacksmithing can slow some of those things down, so it's not as tedious for the person to do from a human skill level with their controllers. These are all kind of the mechanics we're working on. But that's kind of the design overall for all of our crafting, is to use VR for what it's for.
Yeah. Speaking of crafting, I did want to to casually tease something real quick. So we're working on a new winching whale, which has showed up in our roadmap. One of the things that we noticed and we talk about pretty regularly is what are some, like, social communal things that we can do and that encourage players to kind of gather in an area and do something. And I observed that one of the big things that is kind of the most social thing that players are doing right now is gathering around a fire pit to cook and just hang out and talk, prep their food for their buff so they can go do a dungeon run. The new winching whale has a massive cook surface for players to gather around and prepare their food at, so that you now have a place to hang out and gather and do that thing. I just wanted to tease it. We're continuing to try and encourage social interaction in the winching whale.
Yeah, I mean, it's our social hub. Even from the very first Tavern Talk I even participated in took place in the winching whale. It's back at if anybody remembers the Crayon world with the ski free boss in it. Yeah. It was still the winching whale sitting in the middle of that. Okay. Next question. Let me go back. I tabbed back because I thought you were showing something.
Nope. I don't have it open.
Let me go back to the questions. I lost it. I have too many channels in Discord. There it is. I found it. Okay. Dropping support for the Quest 2, not until 2028. I can just say that outright. We're going to use the Quest 2 until Meta no longer supports the Quest 2, and we're
going to do the same thing we did with Quest 1, where we don't deprecate until Meta deprecates.
Exactly. I'm a glutton for punishment, so to this day, I do all of my QA. Got my 700 hours of Ilysia on this Quest 2. That's my primary platform. I'm always the guy in QA that's using that platform. So that is my I'm stuck with you there. I don't even own a Quest 3. Other team members do, but I just
grabs other headset on the other side of my desk.
Yes.
We got too many headsets.
Yeah. A jump button. Something that we've talked about, Sax, with jumping kind of blows and having to push down the controller. We just haven't found a good place for it yet. Some of this is also pending our UI overhaul, which is not on the roadmap because it's really early. But we are going to redo the UI fundamental interaction. We want to get to the place where you're not so laser pointery, and you can interact with buttons and elements and stuff like that. And once that kind of happens, we can free up buttons for things like jump. And so one is kind of blocking the other. So I hope that kind of explains that. Can we expect more mechanics in dungeons? Yes, you will see more mechanics in dungeons. In fact, with the 2 new dungeons that are coming, I'll just say that. There's more coming. Will we see a return of armor hitboxes on enemies? They're already there. If people have fought the, I think it's the Cultist Initiates in Zone 7, they have shields and they use them. They got some goofy animations on. We're fixing that.
I think PvP, we might have already fixed that. It'll be in live.
Yeah, I think. Exactly. Actually, you spent the majority of last week making new animations.
Yeah, I got to play animator for a little while.
Animations. Yeah. Okay. That was all the new highlighted questions that I had in my spiel.
There's been a couple discussions in general and even here now of folks talking about the visual quality differences between Quest 2 and Quest 3, and how when we were in our previous region, we bumped the quality quite a bit up on the Quest 3 and ran into a whole bunch of various issues and problems. So I kind of want to talk on that very briefly. The big thing that showed up and then went away and then showed up and then went away was we were going back and forth between, do we want grass on the quest or do we want shadows on the quest? And we went back and forth between those because they both kind of are very heavy on the quest. And the new region of Levea doesn't have the same grass that the previous region had. So it's worth exploring whether or not shadows can make a return on the Quest 3. However, all of the other less obvious performance enhancements and things that we're working for the Quest 3 are still there. Things like longer view distances and things like that are all still a part of it. It's very simply just that there's no grass and shadows. That was the big, major, obvious difference between Quest 2 and Quest 3.
Still exploring that idea of having grass, but the limit of the grass visual around you really coming in on the Quest 3, where it's just farther out on the PC. We gotta, we're going back and playing with that kind of stuff, which is stuff we need to revisit.
Yeah, I think a lot of our internal discussions have been more around lighting and how it can be improved versus adding super dense grass or anything like that. Exactly. Even on PC VR, super dense grass doesn't run very well.
Right, and something we wanted to revisit for all the platforms is getting back to our original weather system vision. People who have played PTR and will play live have seen a sneak peek of us playing with our weather system. That's what you see in the caves. That's what you see on the Veiled Strand.
Yeah, it's a little goofy, but we're using weather to...
Yeah, but that's what that is. And we're testing that so we can go back to having seasons along with our time of day. We teased stuff a few years ago about wanting to have some pretty cool stuff that Devin worked on, accumulating snow even. And that was very PCVR centric, but we want to come back to that kind of stuff.
Yep. It was actually fairly lightweight too. There was we had the clouds would cast shadows depending on how cloudy it was. Things like that. The accumulating weather, the surfaces would get wet as it rains, things like that.
Yeah, exactly. And you'll see a return of some of like the ash mechanics too for people that survived the events of Ainur. You'll see that again. Big spoiler alert, but the larger instance that you're going to go to is called the Ruins of Ainur for a reason. I'll just drop that hint right now, and then it's part of the storyline for those people that read the storyline.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. It will look very different though. We teased that in the past too.
Yeah.
But we are out of time. We've got 5 minutes left. That is it. I like to spend the last part of this kind of saying the same thing we've always said, which is thank you. Again, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for all you all keeping moving us along. It's been a long 5 years. I feel like we're finally kind of starting to hit our development stride a bit after a lot of ups and downs, and we're still with us, and we're pushing as hard as we can. And
we've got a special call to action, and I want to shout out a few folks. Big shout out to folks like Schwetz and The Walking Dad, Soul Razor, all the folks that are here in our Discord that regularly show up whenever a new player comes into Discord and goes, "What the fuck is this? I don't know how to play the game." Because we're constantly evolving things, and things change all the time, and we're not updating the tutorial every time we release a new feature. We can't do that. It's so much work to update the tutorial. So we're gonna make a final tutorial once we're closer to final release. But big shout out to everybody that's been showing up and helping out, the Helping Hands Guild and everything. But I want to give you all a really big call to action. This weekend and the coming weeks after we go free to play, we're going to have so many noobs. So many noobs. Please go help the noobs. Exactly. Please go show them how to play the game. Go have adventures with them, make some new tunes.
If you guys are interested in being a moderator,
we definitely need more moderators too.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you again. You guys are awesome. We'll put more announcements out as tomorrow about the timing of the downtime for the servers. We should cover that a little tiny bit. It is going to be down for probably 3 hours plus offline while we make the transition to free to play. So just expect that, and that's we'll drop the exact time that's going to happen here. We're doing some internal stuff.
Yep.
And then we'll go from there.
And we'll keep you guys posted in all of the news chats as the update is happening. We'll be talking about it in general chat and whatnot. There's a lot of moving parts. We're working with Meta. We're working with Steam. We're changing the way that our back end works for Mage Portal. Everything is moving. Everything is changing. Everything's being worked on. So it's going to take us a little while, but we'll keep you guys posted as the things change and let you know as soon as it's live, and you guys can go break everything.
Yep, exactly. And then when you get, anybody that you've ever known that has a headset and wants to check out the game and play with them, and make sure you reach out to your friends and say, "Hey, come check out this free game. Give it a shot." And leave us feedback. Leave us a review. We appreciate it. Those reviews help us a lot.
Yep. The biggest thing that you can do to help our game is to show up in game to help work with the new players. Show up in Discord to answer questions. Show up in the reviews to encourage folks to play the game. Because that's all. That's what we're all about. If something's wrong, tell us it's wrong. If something's great, tell us it's great. Keep it coming.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you.
Sweet. All right. Peace out, gamers.